Alright, Draco Eclectic back with another video. This time we're back on the bike stuff again. It seems like this is really popular for whatever reason. my my motorcycle, my Kawasaki Vulcan, fantastic motorcycle, but something that was driving me nuts is the headlamp on this motorcycle. A lot of bikes nowadays have LED lights, bikes that are substantially cheaper. And it's sort of upsetting. So I have an interesting job in the real world, so I get access to like wrecked parts basically. Like when cars get into car accidents and the headlights and stuff break, I get access to that kind of stuff. So I was looking at one of the lights that I had. I got to thinking, I'm like, well, my bike is 12 volt and cars are 12 volt. Why can't I just take this light apart and take the module out of it and retrofit it into my motorcycle? I took the lamp apart from the bike. I took the light apart from the wrecked light that I had and gutted the thing, stripped out the wires, extended the wires to the tail, the same spot where the resistors are for the turn signal, and I ended up sourcing like a different fan, modifying the heat sink on this light, just a whole bunch of stuff to get this whole thing to fit and work together, and I'm blown away with the result. I'm going to detail how I got there and what I got out of it, and if you guys have anything to ask me about doing stuff like this, I'll gladly answer. If you have any kind of stuff you're looking at that you need some kind of input on, feel free to ask. I don't claim to be an expert on like designing things like this. As you can see from the picture here, we have multiple revisions that it took to make this part. But I mean, this was literally 1 week. It took me 1 week to design this thing, have this thing apart, slap the light back on the bike, align the light, and back on the road. With that, we're going to get into the video. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start removing the housing here. As you can see, I've got this thing down to the bare parts. There's a couple odds and ends covers that would be over this light normally. And there's also this bracket at the top, which I did remove at one point, but I realized I don't need to remove that. But just for example, this is the main shroud, which kind of tucks into these little grooves on the side of the light itself. And then there's the outer section, which is these two pieces that kind of fit together sort of like that. I don't think they actually attach. I think they just kind of go in as one piece. Light's the only thing in the frame. There we go. It's kind of like this, and it goes around there. It goes just around the back side of the light. And as I said, I already tore this down before, so this is just kind of a refresher. The outer shield, clear plastic, has to come off. I've already heated this up and taken this apart multiple times, so it's kind of just tacky held together right now. So if I just pull a little bit, seems like it went down a little further than it did before, but if I just pull it a little bit, it should come apart pretty easily. There we go. And don't worry if you break some of the tabs on here. I broke like one of the tabs on the side here. I'm not really worried about it because all these other covers are over the top of this thing anyway. But this is just the outer piece, the piece that you always see when you're looking at the bike. Just put that upside down on the side here. Now, you can actually see the actual reflector assembly here. And the shield here that I thought I needed to remove because I was going to try to fit it onto the top here. But I realized that the clearance wasn't good enough. There just wasn't enough room between the reflector unit and the lens to fit the projector assembly. So, next thing is on the back side here. I've already disconnected the position lamp at the top there. But we do also have the bulb. Yours will probably look different than this. This is actually a LED bulb that I purchased that I was kind of happy with from Amazon. Unfortunately, it just isn't. It's bright, it throws good light, it looks good, it just doesn't quite meet the style I was looking for here. I was really looking for having something that kind of gave the bike a different character. So there's different ways that these bulbs come apart. This one has like a core that comes out, and then the actual mounting bracket is going to stay inside here. So the bulb comes out first regardless, and then, or no, the bulb comes out first if you have like an LED bulb in there. But if you don't, and you have a standard bulb, you take this grommet off first. And then on the inside here, you have like this metal tang over here. You can kind of see. So I kind of stick this in here and just pull it a little forward, or just kick it forward a little bit, something. This is easier to do by hand. There, you just kind of push it down and forward, and it lifts this little lever up, and then that allows you to take your actual bulb out, which again, on this an LED, it's just an adapter piece, so it's not quite as interesting. Put that to the side, lock that back down, so that's out of the way. Oops. Push that down so that's out of the way, no problem. Next thing is there's your two adjusters here. These are actually holding the unit down, so the reflector will not come out of the housing because of that. Again, your mileage may vary. I have this fairly loose because I've had this apart and together a bunch of times. Normally it's screwed a lot tighter than that, but those are just two adjuster studs that go in here that pull the housing. They pull the reflector up or down, left or right, and then the whole thing pivots on the base here. There should be a stud here, like a ball stud, that actually couples into this small section right here. Let's see if I can point that. That small section right here, like where the screwdriver is. So this guy, I'm actually going to leave this in. I don't need to take this out right now, because what's going to happen is when we reassemble this, we're just going to click into that with the ball stud that's on the projector mount, and it should be all good. Alright, one really quick thing that I forgot to point out. There are two black clips. There's one over there, one over there. I need those out of here before I can install the projector into here. These I just kind of jam an Allen key screwdriver in, or just an Allen key wrench, and just pull that out. Same with this guy. It doesn't take any amount of force to pull this out. It's a lot harder in my housing to remove them. So that we don't need anymore. So for now, that's as far as we need to go. We just need to take that all the way back down so that we can install the housing into it. Alright, we're back. So this is a test piece. This is not the final product. I'm just trying to kind of show what the process of installation is. Again, here's that ball stud that we had on the reflector itself. This ball stud just has a regular Phillips head on it. Just comes off with a normal Phillips screwdriver. I'm not going to remove this because, if you can kind of tell, it's sort of melted up there because I trimmed this piece down. It was just a hair too long for what I needed. So I'm just going to leave this attached because I know it's tight. I know it's staying on there. It's not going anywhere. I'm not worried about it. I have the printer running a fresh one of these, so then I can just reassemble it with that later, and it's going to be all good. So first thing, those two clips that we took off. There's two slide sections at the top here. I just slide this in. Yeah, just like that. Same thing over here. Drop it in, and that's it. There's those two clips are in there now. So we'll be able to line this up here, and it just kind of drops in right under the adjusters like it's supposed to. That's all good. Next up, take our reflector, or projector, take our projector unit. This has been extensively modified. So I've done a little bit of trimming along the top here. You can kind of see the rough edge a little bit. The plug has been modified on the shutter here. This shutter controls the little plate that blocks the light for the high and low beam. There's been a very large amount of cutting done to the backside here, just with my rotary tool, and you can kind of see the burrs. And the fan had to be replaced. The fan that I had on here is a 50 mil fan. Stepped it down to a 40 millimeter fan. That is still a 3-wire. This is a 5-volt power source that is coming off of the driver chip. So I found a 5-volt fan, and then found out the reason why it's 3 wires is there's 2 wires for power ground, and then the third wire we have here is the tachometer reading. The LED driver chip, which is a separate box that's already mounted on the bike, that I took out of the headlamp housing that I had from this, that had this projector in it. The driver chip will not provide full power to the LED circuit inside of the projector unless it detects that the fan is running. If it doesn't, it reduces the power to reduce the amount of heat that this will generate. It doesn't seem to generate a lot of heat, so I don't think this cutting the heat sink really did all that much as far as any damage. But I went ahead and purchased this Noctua fan, which, from what I understand, these are very high quality fans. The fan that was in there was already a Panasonic, not something you can even buy even if you wanted to. So that's probably good. This is probably a good comparable product, if not better, than what was on there. But yeah, like here we can see the little shutters just on a solenoid there. So install this is pretty simple. It just kind of slips in here. It's not too bad. And just drop the screws in. So these screws are carried over from the headlamp from the car, and they all kind of fit in pretty nicely. After having revised this design, now we're on the 9th revision of this backing plate. I can safely say it is fit since the 2nd version, and it's pretty good right now. I'm pretty confident with it. So we kept, in the back section we have a tunnel here that allows the light to travel for the running lamp, and then travels through to the front. It's not super visible on the exterior portion of the light. I'm not really worried about that. I don't think it's anything that's necessary for this. But just to clarify how I had all this set up, my wiring's back here. I have my 3-pin for the fan, this little connector here, and then my 4-pin for the LED driver, or from the LED driver to the circuit board, to the actual chip, and then the high beam circuit to the solenoid in the projector. The way that this wiring was run, I tapped into the power at the top of this because it's on all the time. The actual running light up here is on all the time once the key is on. The problem I ran into was the high beam. When the high beam's on with a 3-pin connector like that, when the high beam's on, the low beam is off. So then I had no light out of this at all. So that's why I tapped into the running light, because I figured this isn't going to draw that much power. I don't think it's going to be an issue. So that runs into the circuit in the back, runs all the way back up, plugs into the back of this, and we're good. Screws are down. So that slipped in, that fits on there real nice, and then we have our shroud. The shroud has just a simple pass-through at the top for the running light at the top, and then we have 4 screw holes around the outside. These will be installed with heat certs, like you just kind of get your soldering iron, you just kind of push in these inserts, and they'll allow you to put a 3mm machine screw into the back of this, into the back of the backing plate to install the shroud over the top. And it just kind of goes together like that. It looks like a nice like aftermarket piece. I picked blue because the bike's already blue, so it's going to match real well. I left a little screw in here, a little M4 machine screw, and I'm just going to tighten that. That's going to hold it at the very top at least. This thing doesn't need a lot of support. It's not very heavy. So as long as I get it lined up correctly, it shouldn't be an issue. I say that, and then I fail to line it up. No, wait, no, wait. Yeah, I got it. Okay. And it just goes all the way in. Hopefully this will be a lot easier when I get the other, with the heat inserts and the M3 screws. This should be a lot easier. But for now, it's just going to be a really long M4, and that works pretty good. Alright, so back to this. So yeah, that's what we got right there. Next thing to do is just push it through and install it on top of here. So you're going to have the ball stud there, so that will just snap into the base plate once we have it all in. Shouldn't be too big of an issue. Is this actually going to work? Okay, yeah, so I should leave this alone for right now. I should take this back out because I don't want this whole thing assembled on me right now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to easily remove this once it's installed. So we'll just leave this out. But again, this is the cup that ball stud will fit into right there. I just don't want these two pieces interacting right now, because once it locks in, it's not moving, and it's very difficult to access this once the shroud is over it. So I'll just kind of show you how this goes together though. So again, this just goes through like this, and from the back side, just tighten this a little bit. I'm just trying to get those studs to line up with the nuts on there. They have a little bit of a pivot on them, so they adjust pretty well. So here you can actually see the cut, and like this is, the plate is just right there. I mean, there was very little room to work with for this, so that's why it had to be trimmed, otherwise it just wouldn't fit past like this, the rounded section at the bottom here. But it all fits now. And that's what you end up with when it's tightened up a little bit. And then same deal as before, you just drop the clear lens over it. And if everything's right, it should be able to just push back into place like it did before. See? Yep. That's pretty much it. That's all it is. And yet again, I forgot. This grommet, if you can try to reuse this, if you're trying to make some kind of custom setup yourself, reuse this thing. Seriously. This is going to keep moisture out of the light. It's going to keep the 3D printed parts from getting dirty. It's going to keep the housing and the lens from getting dusty on the inside. And most importantly, it's going to prevent water from getting inside of here. At least, hopefully. So you don't burn something out or short something out or burn your bike to the ground. Nobody wants that. But yeah, with the sleeve that I got on here and that, it's a decent fit. It's not perfect. I'm probably just going to go over with like electrical tape or I think some guy was saying like liquid electrical tape will probably work really good for this, so I might end up using that. But yeah, there you go. Alright, so here we're going to get into a bit of comparison between the original light and the upgrade that I made. Unfortunately, I don't have any kind of comparisons of actual light performance from the original light. I already had this thing torn apart and halfway into installing it on the bike when I decided that I was doing a video on this, because I didn't really think about it at the time, but this is pretty cool. So if I had known from the beginning that I was going to be making a video, I probably would have done this a little differently. But just going to show like differences here of what we got out of it compared to what the final design was, and then give you some light output shots as well. All right. So I'm just going to say thanks for watching the video. If you guys liked what you saw, if you have any questions or comments, suggestions, feel free to put them in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to put a like on there. That actually helps out the channel a lot. Really appreciate that. If you guys want to see more content like this, if you guys want to see more of the bike stuff, more of my projects, or even my Let's Play video game series stuff, really appreciate it if you guys are subscribers. You get to see more stuff like that. Otherwise, I will see you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.